Can high-flow nasal cannula replace the ventilator or avoid a tracheostomy? My name is Patrik Hutzel from intensivcarehotline.com, where we instantly improve the lives for families of critically ill patients in intensive care so that you can make informed decisions, have peace of mind, control, power, and influence, making sure your loved one always gets best care and treatment, even if you're not a doctor or a nurse in intensive care. In today's video, I'll answer a question from one of our clients with the name of Deborah, who's asking, "Hi Patrik, with PEEP of 10 and FiO2 55%, if the doctor won't do a tracheostomy on day 8, could we try high-flow nasal cannula instead? It's sometimes used with hospice patients to keep them comfortable and off sedation and off opiates, and they can even go home on it." We'll unpack this question in detail, talk about ventilator settings, PEEP, FiO2, sedation and opiate management, and most importantly, how you can advocate for your loved one to avoid the wrong decisions in intensive care. So let's look at the background first here, the ventilator settings and why they matter. Let's start with some very basics. Your mom is on PEEP 10 and FiO2 55%. That means she's still requiring a moderate to high level of ventilation support. PEEP, which stands for positive end expiratory pressure, keeps your mom's lungs open at the end of each breath. And FiO2, the fraction of inspired oxygen, tells us how much oxygen the ventilator is delivering. A patient or your mom needing PEEP of 10 and FiO2 55% is not ready to come off the ventilator. They're still too dependent on mechanical ventilation support. And it also means a tracheostomy is contraindicated at this stage because PEEP needs to be below 7.5 and FiO2 needs to be below 35%, right? And your mom is still a bit away from that. That means no surgeon, no intensive care specialist will operate on her to do a tracheostomy. It's simply too risky. The risk of a respiratory arrest is way too high with PEEP of 10 and FiO2 55%. That would need to be weaned off. On top of that, she would need to be breathing spontaneously, which she's not at the moment because she's on too much sedatives and opiates. Next, can high-flow nasal cannula replace the ventilator? The short answer is no, not safely anyway, not at those levels. High-flow nasal cannula delivers high-flow humidified oxygen or air through nasal prongs and provides mild positive airway pressure. It's great for patients after extubation or with milder respiratory failure. However, high-flow nasal cannula cannot replace the level of support provided by a ventilator of PEEP of 10 and FiO2 55%. The jump would simply be too high, and the risk of respiratory arrest and a death would be too high. If a patient is switched from a ventilator to high-flow nasal cannula too early, they can go into respiratory distress, respiratory failure, or even cardiac arrest. High-flow nasal cannula is best suited for post-extubation oxygen support, PEEP around 5, FiO2 less than 35 or 40%, and obviously spontaneous breathing trials would have needed to be passed. Palliative or hospice care settings for comfort, not recovery, and step-down therapy when lungs are still frail but are improving. Again, that's mainly post-extubation. Or when someone has a tracheostomy and needs a trach collar, they often also go on the high-flow tracheostomy collar. But it's definitely not a substitute for full mechanical ventilation when the lungs are still severely compromised, which is the case in your mom's situation. Now, what do I keep saying here over and over again? The biggest challenge for families in intensive care is that they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what to look for. They don't know what questions to ask. They don't know their rights, and they don't know how to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care. And this is a typical situation where Deborah simply doesn't know what she doesn't know, but that's what I'm here to help Deborah with. So next, why a tracheostomy may be necessary. If your mom can't be weaned off the ventilator after 7 to 10 days, a tracheostomy is often the next logical step because it reduces sedation and opiates. Patients can often wake up and communicate. It facilitates weaning easier because it's easier to manage breathing trials. It improves comfort and mobility, reduces ICU length of stay. If Your mother can be weaned off the ventilator, and it allows for long-term ventilation at home if need be with intensive care at home support. You can find more information at intensivecareathome.com. So rather than keeping your mom deeply sedated and on opiates on a breathing tube for weeks, tracheostomy is often a safer and more humane option. So let's also now look at the problem with sedation and opiates in ICU because it ties in with today's question from Deborah. You mentioned your mom is still on propofol and fentanyl and possibly not receiving Precedex, which is also known as dexmedetomidine. This is actually very concerning. Ongoing heavy sedation keeps patients unresponsive, unable to participate in weaning, often leads to ICU delirium, ICU psychosis, deconditioning, muscle weaknesses, delayed recovery, and inability to wean off the ventilator. I always tell families if the ICU keeps your loved one sedated and opiated for too long, they can't wake up. If they can't wake up, they can't come off the ventilator quickly. And those delays can be quite deadly. And if they can't come off the ventilator, they'll tell you a tracheostomy or withdrawal of treatment is the only option. One of the most important questions you need to ask early on is, number one, what's the intensive care team doing beyond the shadow of a doubt to wean your loved one off the ventilator and the breathing tube? And what are they doing beyond the shadow of a doubt to avoid the tracheostomy? And you need to know what questions to ask. And I've made videos about how to wean a critically ill patient off the ventilator and the breathing tube. And you can check it out by clicking on the link in the written version of this blog to the video. Precedex, for example, allows patients to be awake, calm, and cooperative, making weaning safer and more achievable. So ask the ICU team, what's the sedation plan? Why not use Precedex instead of heavy propofol and fentanyl? When will you start sedation and opiate breaks and spontaneous breathing trials? And they can't do that really before they've weaned your mom off opiates and sedation. Let's look at fluid overload and kidney failure in ICU. Deborah, you also mentioned your mom is bloated, has minimal urine output, and is not getting water flushes. This sounds likely acute kidney injury or fluid overload, both of which can severely affect lung function. If the body is fluid overloaded, the lungs get congested and gas exchange becomes more difficult, making it much harder to come off the ventilator. You need to ask what's the fluid balance, what are her kidney numbers such as creatinine, urea, BUN levels, GFR, has the ICU considered Lasix or dialysis? These issues must be addressed before any ventilator weaning can succeed. You know, the old saying in ICU goes, you have to keep the lungs dry in order to succeed with ventilation weaning. So what can you do right now? Here is what you can do to take back control. Number one, get access to all medical records. Always get access to all medical records. And just as a reminder, getting access to medical records is not a privilege, it's a right. Okay, so don't let anybody tell you you can't get access to the medical records. If the ICU team is trying to make it difficult for you, that's what it is. They're just trying to make it difficult for you. They have things to hide, and you need to be concerned about if they have things to hide. Next, ask for clear, and we can help you getting access to medical records. We have always managed to get access to medical records for our clients with our help if the ICU team is difficult. Number two, ask for clear answers about sedation and opiate management, tracheostomy timing, kidney and fluid plan, ventilation, weaning goals and timelines. Document everything, take notes, get reports, access to medical records, and stay involved in ward rounds. Don't let the ICU rush or delay decisions without your input. Get independent clinical advocacy. That's what we provide here at intensivecarehotline.com. And if you're watching this right now and you have a loved one in intensive care, stuck on a ventilator, heavily sedated, heavily opiated, and the doctors are pushing towards withdrawal of treatment or hospice, don't do it without talking to us first. Come to us at intensivecarehotline.com, and we help families just like yours to speak directly with ICU doctors and ICU nurses, interpret medical information in real time, advocate for best care and outcomes, make informed decisions confidently. Go to intensivecarehotline.com, call me directly on one of the numbers on the top of our website, or email me at support@intensivecarehotline.com. I have worked in critical care nursing for 25 years in 3 different countries, where I worked as a nurse manager for over 5 years in intensive care. And I've been consulting and advocating for families in intensive care since 2013 here at intensivecare.com. And I can very, very, very confidently say that we have saved many lives with our consulting and advocacy because of our insights, and you can verify that on our testimonial section at intensivecare.com, and you can verify it on our intensivecare.com podcast section where we have done client interviews. And because our advice is absolutely life-changing, right? The biggest challenge for families in intensive care is simply that they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what to look for. They don't know what questions to ask. They don't know their rights, and they don't know how to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care. And that's why we help you to improve your life instantly, making sure you make informed decisions, have peace of mind, control, power, and influence, making sure your loved one gets best care and treatment always. And that's why you can join a growing number of members and clients that we have helped over the years, saving their loved ones' lives. And that's why I do one-on-one consulting and advocacy over the phone, Zoom, WhatsApp, whichever medium works best for you. And I talk to you and your families directly. I handhold you through this once-in-a-lifetime situation that you simply cannot afford to get wrong. And when I talk to families directly, I also talk to doctors and nurses directly, asking all the questions that you haven't even considered asking, but must be asked when you have a loved one critically ill in intensive care. I also represent you in family meetings with intensive care teams. We also do medical record reviews in real time so that you can get a second opinion in real time. We also do medical record reviews after intensive care. So if in case you have unanswered questions, if you need closure, or if you are suspecting medical negligence. We also have a membership for families of critically ill patients in intensive care, and you can become a member if you go to intensivecare.com, if you click on the membership link, or if you go to intensivecaresupport.org directly. In the membership, you have access to me and my team 24 hours a day in a membership area and via email, and we answer all questions intensive care related. In the membership, you also have exclusive access to 21 ebooks and 21 videos that I've personally written and recorded. And all of that will help you to improve your life instantly, make informed decisions, have peace of mind, control, power, and influence, making sure your loved one gets best care and treatment always. And all of that you get at intensivecare.com. Call us on one of the numbers on the top of our website, or simply send us an email to support@intensivecare.com with your questions. And if you like my video, and if you like my videos, subscribe to my YouTube channel for regular updates for families in intensive care. Click the like button, click the notification bell, share the video with your friends and families, and comment below what you want to see next, what questions and insights you have from this video. I also do a weekly YouTube live where I answer your questions live on a show, and you will get notification from the YouTube live if you are a subscriber to my YouTube channel, or if you are a subscriber to my intensivecare.com email newsletter at intensivecare.com. Thank you so much for watching. This is Patrik Hutzel from intensivecare.com, and I will talk to you in a few days. Take care for now.